Hi, I'm Melissa Cody. The fastest way to achieve success is to find someone who's already done an amazing job at what you want to do, and then have them explain to you exactly what they did to get there. We all rise by lifting others.
Hi, I'm Nycki Carter, and we are the founders and owners of Insporise, a platform where we can connect wildly successful people with aspiring successful people. And over the next 30 minutes, you are going to hear from someone who is truly inspiring. Hello, I'm Nycki Carter. I am so excited to be here today. I am the co-owner of Insporise, and I'm going to let Melissa introduce our amazing guest today. We're so excited to have him. Thank you so much, Don, for jumping on today.
My pleasure.
Hi, everyone. This is Melissa Cody, the other co-owner of Insporise. And I have the wonderful pleasure today of introducing my dad, Don Cody, and asking him about his story. So I'm going to jump right into it. So we'd love to know, since I, of course, already know, but we'd all love to know your story. How did you start? Why? And a little about you.
It goes way back. I'm 63 now, and I was born to a loving set of parents, but they were broke, like really, really poor and uneducated. Neither of them finished 7th grade, but my dad was pretty good with his hands. And so I was the only boy and the oldest, and so I was always underfoot when he was trying to do home projects, but he'd send me for a tool and then he'd get it done. And so eventually I learned how to do plumbing and carpentry and heating and roofing and siding and anything you could do to a house repair. So he'd buy a crappy little house and fix it up and sell it and move us into another one. And my mom, at 83 years old, still lives in the 5th house he ever bought. He became totally disabled at 39, died at 52. But by then, when he became disabled, I was going into high school. He just bought the house that my mom lives in. It was a tiny little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and we were a family of 5. And he had big plans for it, but then he couldn't do it. So at night and on the weekends, when I came home from school, I would do all the projects. He paid $14,900 for it. It's worth about $700,000, and it's on a lake, which was always his dream. This is a kid that ran away from the orphanage at 14. So I got started as a real estate investor in my 20s, and had a lot of success. And that was in the 1980s. Most of the viewers weren't even a twinkle in anybody's eye probably at that point, because I'm old, but I made a lot of money in the 80s, and I lost it all in the 90s, and I did them both really, really good, and got back on my feet, and I've been a serial entrepreneur pretty much since I was 9. I built a shoe shine box at 9 and snuck into all the bars. We lived in a really bad neighborhood, and sold shoe shines, and then took the money and bought penny candy across the street at the store and sold it for 2 cents in school the next day. So I was doubling my money at 9 years old. I could tell you lots of stories because I'm old, but that's not that story.
Love it. I think it's an interesting dynamic that you bring in your childhood, because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, like I have a similar story at 8, 9, 7, the lemonade stand, the lemonade stands, all the things. So it's amazing that you can see those characteristics if you're a parent looking for it so early on most of the time. Mm-hmm. Love it.
Yeah,
I actually think it's interesting that what you just said, Nycki, about the childhood, and I learned this from my dad, that if you have someone in your life when you are a child that not necessarily teaches you, but gives off the vibes of, you can do anything you want, you could have anything you want, and kind of gives you that entrepreneurial mindset so young on, that just like you, Nycki, just like me, just like my dad from his dad, you grow up knowing that you can have that, you can do that.
Love it. Okay, so you go from early on real estate, move into your next thing. What was your kind of next endeavor? You realized you tested it out, it didn't work out. Where was your passion? Like, what was moving you forward? What did you end up doing? And how did you get there?
I started real estate investing right about the time that Melissa was born, actually right around the same time, because when you have a baby on the way, all of a sudden your life really changes dramatically. You're like, holy crap, I have another life that I'm responsible for. And so that just sparked something in me to really kick it up a notch. And like I said, I did pretty well at the beginning, and then the market crashed in '89, and then and I lost everything. I ended up filing bankruptcy. I ended up losing all my property. Her mom and I already had a challenged marriage. Ended up with 2 beautiful, amazing kids, but the marriage didn't do so good. But so we ended up divorced, and I ended up homeless. And I was a hardworking guy, and I couldn't understand why this would happen to me. So I spent quite a bit of time in a pity party, and but that didn't seem to get me anywhere. So I at one point had a moment of clarity and reached out to a guy who had been a sort of informal mentor of mine. And I hadn't seen him for like 10 years, but I called him up and I invited him for a cup of coffee, just because everybody except him that I knew had gone broke like me, but he was like 4 times richer, and I wanted to know what he knew that I didn't know. And so we met for a cup of coffee, and I said, can you help me figure out how to get back on my feet? And he asked me a crazy question. I was expecting him to kind of put his arm around me and say, come on, kid, let me show you how to do this again, because he'd already shown me once, but he didn't. Instead, he asked me this question. He said, have you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich? And I had. And so I said, yes. And he seemed perplexed. He's like, really? How many times? So I said, so once. How many times do you have to read a book? And I'm a smarty pants and I'm broke. Not a good combination. And he wasn't amused, as I recall. But so he just kind of looked at me straight faced and he said, dude, I really think you need to read it again. All the answers you're looking for in that book. He said, hey, thanks for the coffee. I've got to go. So it was one of the shortest meetings I've ever had, and one of the most painful meetings, because the only person I knew that I thought had the answer was walking out the door. And he turned and he said, hey, if you don't get it this time, just keep reading it. And apparently he knew I was a C student. So he gave me that advice. And so I remember being paralyzed. I mean, I remember sitting there thinking, I don't know the next step. I don't even know. But at some point, kind of in slow motion, I kind of left the restaurant, and about halfway home I had this idea. I was like, wait a minute, he's rich and I'm poor. That's probably a clue, right? So let me get my hands on this book and see what I missed. So I got my hands on the book and I read it, and I got to the end and went, I missed it again. And so I said, let me read it again, right? And so I read it again, and I got more frustrated because I knew the answers were in that book. I knew the principles in that book were sound, but I couldn't figure out where's the how-to. Turns out it's not in there. And so out of frustration, I went looking for somebody who put the how-to, because this is a philosophy of personal achievement. And for our audience, if you don't know this book, stop what you're doing and go get it. It is the granddaddy of all books that talk about success. It has more empirical research that backs it up than any book, period. It's one of the top 4 best-selling books of all time, including the Bible. So if that's not a sales pitch for it, I don't know what is. But just go get your hands on the book, right? Just go get your hands. But realize that the how-to is not in there. It was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world, the first billionaire. And he asked him to write a philosophy of personal achievement, which he did. Philosophy doesn't have any how-to, son of a gun. And so I needed a how-to, couldn't find one, so I created one. And today that program is called the LifeWorks Life Mastery System. It is literally the technology to apply the philosophy on how people became successful, like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, William Wrigley, King Gillette, Woodrow Wilson, William Howard Taft, Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, John D. Rockefeller. I could go on, but you get the idea. All of those people were interviewed by the author personally. You imagine his notes? I mean, amazing, right? And so I have become a student. I've literally made a career out of reading that book. I've lost count after 100 times. But today, my dad gave me some good advice. He said, son, if you help one other person become more successful, that means you're successful. And I never forgot that. And that's what my life is about now, helping people to become whatever they want to become.
Love it. Melissa, thoughts? I'm going to let you go first because I'm sure you have thoughts.
Well, I mean, I guess it's no wonder why that's my life goal too, right?
Apple doesn't fall far, right?
Right. Yeah. So I feel like I have a whole head of knowledge of motivational quotes that you have given me over the years. I don't even think that I could possibly pick my favorite, but given that, you know, you've read this book a million times, and have had such amazing insight from your dad. Could you even slightly possibly narrow it down to your best inspirational quote or your best piece of advice or something along those lines?
If you ask me one piece of advice, when you were a little kid, I was going to get you 3, right? So I'm going to give you more than one. At the end of the first chapter, he says, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And so if you write that down, pause this video and write that down and put it on big letters and put it on a sign on your wall over your desk and keep reading it until you believe that anything that you can think of that you want, you can achieve if you just believe. That's number 1. He also says the secret comes in 2 parts. The secret to success comes in 2 parts. You have to bring the first part. And the second part, he says that he tells you in every single chapter over 100 times, but he says it's better left exposed for you to figure out for yourself. So I'm going to leave that for our audience to go get the book. Go get the book. I'm going to at some point in this, hopefully you'll let me give my email address. If you want a free PDF copy of that book, just email me and I'll send it to you. Don't even have to buy it. Instantly, it'll be in your email. So the real quote is this. He says, when you know and use the secret, success takes little to no hard work. Now stop and think about that. If you're like most people, you were taught success is based on hard work, right? The secret to success is hard work. No, the 500 most successful people in the world during the Industrial Revolution said no. It takes little to no hard work when you know the secret. If that were true, wouldn't that be a great discovery? It is true. I'm here to tell you it is true.
Wow. I want to touch back on something that you had said in your story about your advice and, you feel like you hit, rock bottom. And the very first step that you did was go find someone that you knew was successful, that you wanted to be like, because if you're this far into our platform, you don't know yet, that is literally like the precedent of what we want to build a platform on is please find people who are doing what you want to do and learn from them. Do not go learn from someone who does philosophy on topics. Please don't do that. We want you to meet someone who's doing what you want to do and learn from them.
Yeah, theory is good, but if you want to really do it, you probably want to find somebody who already did it. Again, another great nugget of wisdom I got from my dad. He said, if you want to be successful at something, son, find a person further down the road that you want to go down and follow them. 3 reasons. It's less expensive, it takes less time, and it's a lot less painful.
Yeah. I love it.
That's the reason.
I have to interject with a quick question because I feel like this is really important to most entrepreneurs. So that the moment when, you've lost everything and you could go in one of 2 directions. You could say that this didn't work. I can't, I obviously failed. I can't move forward. Even when your mentor walks out the door and you're like, well, I could go get this book. Or I could go take a nap because that sounds easy. What was inside of you that said, I can do this, even if I don't know how to, or even if I don't know what the answers are, just that knowing that made you decide to push forward?
Yeah, I struggled to figure that out for a lot of years. So what ended up happening, I was truly a C student in high school. That was on a good day, and there weren't a lot of good days. And I struggled, both Melissa's mom and I went to night school. I finished my bachelor's degree at night while I had a young family, and I was doing real estate and a full-time sales job during the day and part-time running a convenience store. I mean, I was ridiculously ambitious. So that'd be my first piece of advice. Just become ridiculously ambitious and you'll at least be on the path. But the answer to your question about, a lot of people are at that have come to that crossroads where they get knocked down and they go find a bar stool and pour themselves into a bottle, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Or a needle, right? Or something like that. But I didn't. That never showed up on my radar. I don't know why. I feel blessed. I just feel lucky, right? But I wanted to know the answer to that question too. And over the years, I struggled when I looked at other people and said, that person has more talent, that person has more contacts, that person has more opportunities than me, and they're not using them, and I don't know why. And so many years later, in my 50s, I decided to go back to school. And I wanted to finally, once and for all, figure this out. And so I went and I signed up for a doctoral program. And I'm in a meeting with my counsel, my advisor, my academic advisor. And first meeting, what do you want to have your degree in? What do you want your the thesis to be in? And I said psychology. He started laughing. And I said, no, really, I'm serious. I want to understand, the human mind. He said, apparently you don't understand what higher education is about. It's about learning more and more about less and less. So psychology is like this big thing, and you got to find this tiny little slice in that big thing, this little piece of psychology, and you've got to become the leading expert in that. That's why you deserve a doctorate, because you're the expert. You're the one. Everybody in the world goes to you because that's what you are really knowledgeable about. And I said, then I know exactly what it is. It's what I call resilience. It's that thing that no matter how many times you get knocked down, the only option you see is to get back up. It's the only one. There's no other option. People have said to me, why do you keep getting up? I'm like, there's another choice. It never even occurred to me. Just keep getting up, because you can't win if you don't finish the game, finish the race. And so I wrote 3 books on it so far, right? It's resilience. You just keep going. That's it.
Love
I mean,
it.
there's more to it, but that's in its essence. If you want to win, you got to keep going.
Do it. Yep.
Yeah, if you want to win or if you want to be successful, just know that's the only path. There's no other path. Just keep showing up. Like, that's definitely what I took out of that.
Yeah, there's lots of stories. Like in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about Edison, where Edison said that he failed 10,000 times to create the electric light bulb. So he said, I just ran out of things that didn't work. Okay, that's sort of a definition of how to be successful, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? Colonel Sanders, he was a cook at a little restaurant, and they rerouted the road when they were putting in the interstates. They rerouted the road, and no traffic went by the restaurant, and the restaurant closed. And he was 66 years old, got his first Social Security check for $99. And he said, I can't live this way. And he took stock of his resources. He had a station wagon. He had a white linen suit with a little black bow tie, and he had a killer chicken recipe. And so he came up with an idea. 66 years old, when most people are looking for a rocking chair, right? He got in his station wagon and went to a restaurant and said, I have a great chicken recipe. Let me cook some chicken for you. And if you like it, I don't need anything for it except 5 cents for every piece of chicken you sell from now on. And he went from Kentucky all the way across the country to Berkeley, California, before the first person said yes. 1,009 people said no to him. He slept in his station wagon and he ate his chicken. That's how he survived. Just don't give up. Last story. So there's a graduating class of Oxford University, and they asked Winston Churchill, he's really, really old, like should have died a long time ago, but he's still alive, right? And with those big cigars, he should have died a long time ago. But anyway, so they asked him to come and speak. So there's this red carpet. The place is just standing room only. All the bleachers are filled. All the grass is all people. And this red carpet goes all the way up the grass onto the hill. Big black limousine pulls up. He gets out, 1 foot, puts the cane out, gets out, put his top hat on. He walks down the red carpet, up the 3 stairs, goes and stands at the podium, takes off his hat, puts it inside, puts his cane on the side. He looks out at the audience and he says, never give up. And he waits 30 seconds. Can you imagine how long that is? Everybody's like holding their breath. And he goes, never give up. And then he waits a whole freaking minute. And then he says, never give up. And he takes his hat, puts it back on, takes his cane, walks down the stairs, gets in his limousine, and takes off. 6 words. Most powerful speech I've ever heard. That's it. That's what motivates me. That's what keeps me going. Every time I think I'm going to quit on something, I'm like, nah.
Nah. Yes. Love it.
Other option.
Okay. So within all of that, I heard Churchill, but do you have one person or a few people that you can really contribute like your inspiration and motivation to just keep moving on to?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. One was my dad, of course, but and he still motivates me, still inspires me. But when Napoleon Hill wrote the book, he was commissioned in 1908. He was introduced to 500 of the world's most successful people, and he finally published the book in 1937. During that period of time, there was this tiny little guy in a bed sheet by the name of Gandhi in India. And during that time, Britain was very oppressive and controlled that country. And Gandhi said, we will have our freedom and you will not be violent no matter what they do to you. So no violence, we're going to win our freedom, no violence. So imagine, it seems like such a contradiction, right? So here's a guy who has no money. He lives in an ashram, right? He has no resources. He doesn't even have a suit of clothes. He's got a bed sheet. He doesn't have any political power. He doesn't hold any political position. He has no military. He has nothing really except his voice. And he speaks over and over and over. And finally, he rallies 250 million people together in one mind. And they won their freedom.
Wow.
He's my hero. Yeah, for sure, when it comes to my life's purpose. But I have several aspects of my life that are important to me. Of course, living my purpose is really important, but I also want to stay healthy. I want to be around a long time to play with my kids, my grandkids, and my great-grandkids, hopefully, right? So I want to be around for a long time. So I'm 63, as I mentioned. I take no medications of any kind. I walk 7 miles every morning. I also lift about 5 days a week, do weightlifting. I'm very blessed with good genes. So that's something that I just was blessed with. I didn't do, but I'm trying to make the most of those. So when it comes to my health and fitness, my hero is Sylvester Stallone. If you look at pictures of him today, he's 75 and would kick any 18-year-old's ass. Right? I just want to be like him, right? And when I'm working out in the gym, little secret, don't tell anybody, I haven't really lost my mind. It's on its way, but I haven't lost it yet. But he's there with me in the gym, right? I visualize him when I'm doing a bench press going, one more rep. Can you imagine Sylvester Stallone yelling in your face going, you got another one in you. Don't make me mad, right? Right? So Gandhi, Sylvester Stallone, those are a couple of them, and I could go on, but you get the idea. For each one of the areas of my priority in my life, my romantic relationship with my wife, it's James Bond. I just want to be as cool as him for her. Right? You get the idea.
That's so funny. I have a question.
Sure.
That's been kind of underlining through the whole conversation, and put you on the spot because it was not written down, but I believe in you that you could answer this. Uh-oh. So when it comes to like replenishing or refreshing and self-care and mindset and all these things that keep you motivated and keep that energy high, like I hear fitness, I hear taking care of yourself, like what else could you do, or what other advice could you give to people as far as like what they can read, what they can eat, where they can go? Like how do you just stay fulfilled? Because a lot of people experience burnout. What is your advice on like that whole topic?
So you remember the part of the story where I read Think and Grow Rich and I was frustrated. I created a system for myself where all of the principles are embedded in the system, but the system itself is really just 3 parts at sort of the 50,000 foot level. And I didn't invent this, I just discovered it. There's really only 3 steps to create anything. Whether you want to bake a cake, build a birdhouse, build a castle, build the life of your dreams, build great health, great relationships. There's only 3 steps. And so if our listeners, this is my advice, get something to write this down, because I don't know anybody else who's teaching this, which blows my mind because it's like right in front of us all the time. The first step, and this is how I stay motivated, I'm going to get to that. the first step in creating the future that you want, the life of your dreams, we call it. The first step is to get an internal representation of what it is that you want. The car you want to drive, the house you want to drive, how you want to interact, how you want to make a contribution to the world, the charities that you want to give to. I don't care what it is, whatever would make you happy and fulfilled and completely lit up and excited about getting up in the morning and not wanting to go to bed at night because you're so excited and you just can't wait for the next day. To get like that, like every single day, my mornings are like better than most people's Christmases for that reason, because I have a really crystal clear picture about everything that I want in my life. The second step is to transition it from the internal world of your imagination, which is one of the principles in Think and Grow Rich, into the external world by writing it down on paper. If you want to make a cake, it's called a recipe. If you want to make some chemical compound that's going to, do some fancy stuff, it's called a formula, right? If you want to build a house, it's called a blueprint. If you want to build a business, it's called a business plan. There's lots of different names, but it's always the same thing. There's a written plan. And then, so that's the second step. The third step is you have to take action on that plan. And if you know what you want, you have the steps written down, and you act every day towards your goal and keep that vision really clear, you just keep heading to that compass heading, that point on the horizon, and just keep going. Put one foot in front of the other. Someone said to me the other day, there's that old quote, right? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step, right? But it's still 1,000 miles. You got to get there because you got to put one first step, but then the second and the 1,000th, and so on. That's how I stay motivated, Nycki, because I know I'm very clear about what I want. I have a plan to get there. Now, one of the first people that ever took the class that I created 25 years ago plus, he said to me at the end of the 3-day workshop, he said, so let me get this right. You have to have a plan. It never goes as planned, but you have to have a plan, right? And I never forgot that. You have to have a plan. It's never going to go as planned, but you have to have a plan. And he said, so why is that? And I said, the plan gives you the compass heading. If you don't have a point on the horizon where you know you're going and you have a compass to keep following that, if you don't have that, there's a Bible saying, I'm not particularly religious, but there's a Bible saying that the people that don't have hope will be lost, right? You have to have hope for the future. And Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. But when he defined, it's not in the book, it's separate. I'll send you that too if you want to send me an email. But he made a list of 11 things that constitute real wealth. The 11th thing was money. Almost seemed like an afterthought, right? I'm going to put together the top 10 things, right? Oh, there's one more thing, it's money. So hope for the future, contribution to others, good health, great relationships. Those are all riches that most people don't have in abundance, but I do.
I really love your compass analogy, because I think I definitely can get distracted that you try to solve a problem and then you go down this path of like focusing on solving the problem, but not. Yeah, I really like that analogy. I think that's a great answer.
I liked this was kind of previous to that, but it tied into everything you just said. The Sylvester Stallone in the gym with you. I feel like visualizing is something that we, like you said, it's around us every single day. But I don't think enough people know that they hold that power within them all the time, all day, every day. And that if you visualize, and whether it's your goals or lifting weights in the gym, you have to have that picture in your mind first. And that really is the first step. You can project it out to the real world, but unless it's in your mind first, it's not going to get out there to the real world.
Yeah. And in Grow Rich, he also says you have to be a part of a community that is supportive, holds you accountable, and is able to help you to It's only two things that'll ever get in your way. There's either an obstacle or a missing resource. And usually the missing resource is what you need to get over the obstacle. So you can count them on one hand with the things that'll derail your plan, right? And if you try to do this by yourself, you only have so many resources mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. But if you have a group of people that are all working together to mastermind, as he puts it, right? You got what you ladies are putting together here is an opportunity for people to come together. One of the things that breaks my heart to know is that the idea of apprenticeship has all but died. Now, it's true, we might not need as many blacksmiths anymore. However, the concept of apprenticeship should be used when someone learns how to do internet marketing. They should have somebody looking over their shoulder. So I created a youth program for my university, LifeWorks University. We have a youth program. 2 years ago, I started mentoring a young man who was 16. He just graduated from high school, and he had a younger sister, 14. And I said, hey, Sylvia, you can sit in. And so she sat in. So now she's 16. She sent me a piece of music that she wrote, a concerto, and she played on her piano, and she self-taught. It made me cry. We need to apprentice. We need to get young people and teach them this stuff. And you're going to do this in a massive way. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it, really.
Ooh, I have chills. I hope so. Man, I hope so.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal idea whose time has come.
Glad. I'm glad that you think so. I think that comes with high praise. So we touched on a lot of different aspects of things that you offer, but if you want to do a recap of how people can find you, what kind of resources they can get from you, Facebook page, websites, email, all those types of things, I would love to connect them with you. And of course, you've seen that I will overlay it and let everyone see it visually, but if they're on just an audio version, you can also spell that out for them.
Yeah, sure. The easiest way, you can go to my school's website. It's LifeWorksUniversity.com. And then there's an application there, just like if you wanted to go to Harvard, you'd have to apply. Same thing with my school, you have to apply. But one of our counselors will call you and talk with you and find out if it's a fit, what we have for you. It's not a fit for everybody. But if you want to reach out to me personally and get that PDF of Think and Grow Rich, it's drcote@lifeworksuniversity.com.
Also, I think that you could even put that on your Insporise page as well, so that if they're seeing this video on Insporise, they can go to your page. And
is it linkable? Could they click on the link? Maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
awesome.
You can get all that stuff right on your page.
All this modern technology, how cool. Email, who ever heard?
Email, what's that?
Yeah, the year I graduated from high school, 1976, was the year that Steve Jobs introduced the world to the personal computer. So we had electric typewriters in my school. So I'm ancient.
I'm not that far behind you. I had a typewriter. I think I wrote my first high school paper still on a typewriter.
You have them in museums now.
Oh, good. That makes me feel real good.
I'm not
going to say how old I am.
Along with payphones.
Right. Those two.
I'm sorry, I cannot contribute to this conversation.
Yeah, our millennial over here.
But I do appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you so much, Don. Melissa, I'm so glad that we got to jump on. Thank you so much for bringing your dad on. Don, thank you for making time for us.
My pleasure.
Again, I will link everything so people can connect with you through Insporise, email, your website, all those types of things. If anyone has any questions, I will absolutely send them your way. Melissa, any closing thoughts? I'm happy just to jump off if you are.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we got to do this. I have heard his stories many times, but it's like the first time every time because they're so interesting. So thank you for doing this for us. We really appreciate you dedicating your time to this, and hopefully we can all continue to do what we love and help others. Our motto for Insporise is "We rise by lifting others." So
one last thing my dad said that will contribute to this. My dad said, listen, if you learn something, son, and you go to the grave and you don't pass it on, that's what a sin is called, right? So you are creating an atmosphere, an environment for everybody to take what they know and pass it on to the next generation and the next generation. Good work, ladies.
Thank you.
Love it.
Bye
Thanks
for now.
See you guys later. Bye.